Fast food was integral to American family life, weekend routines, and childhood memories during the 1970s and 1980s. These places were more than just quick stops for meals. They served as community gathering points for celebrations and breaks during long road trips. Although many chains felt local and familiar, tastes changed, competition increased, and operating costs rose, leading to their quiet disappearance. Their buildings were reused for other purposes, and their signs were taken down. Today, these once ever-present fast food chains exist only in old media and in the memories of those who grew up with them. Geno's Hamburgers was more than just a place to grab a quick meal. For many families in the 1960s and 1970s, it felt like a neighborhood landmark where weekends, ball games, and road trips often ended. The restaurants were bright, busy, and welcoming, with a simple menu that focused on burgers, fries, and shakes that tasted consistent no matter which location you visited. Kids remember the excitement of pulling into the parking lot, the smell of grilled beef in the air, and the feeling that this was a small reward after a long day. Geno's had a personality that felt confident without trying too hard, and its connection to sports culture made it feel especially American. But as the fast food world grew more crowded and competition intensified, Geno's struggled to keep its place. Locations were sold, signs came down, and the name slowly faded from everyday life. For those who remember it, Geno's represents a time when fast food felt personal and familiar. And just as Geno's was fading from view, another chain was rising in busy city neighborhoods, bringing its own version of fast food magic to a new generation. Wetson's was a fast food chain that felt perfectly suited to the pace and personality of urban America. Popular throughout the 1960s and 1970s, especially in New York and nearby areas, Wetson's offered burgers, fries, and milkshakes that felt affordable, dependable, and quick. Its locations were often smaller than suburban drive-ins, designed for foot traffic and families moving through crowded neighborhoods. For many kids, Wetson's was the first place they were allowed to order on their own, carefully counting coins at the counter while staring up at the menu. The food was simple, but the experience was memorable, tied closely to city life and everyday routines. Wetson's felt like a regular stop after school, during errands, or on weekend outings with parents. But as national chains expanded aggressively and real estate costs increased, Wetson's found it harder to survive. One by one, the locations closed, leaving behind memories and empty storefronts. For those who grew up with it, Wetson's captures the feeling of a faster, noisier, but deeply familiar era. And while Wetson's was rooted in the city, another chain took a very different approach, standing out with bold buildings and unforgettable signs. Red Barn was impossible to miss. With its bright red, barn-shaped buildings and cheerful design, it stood out along highways and busy roads across America during the 1960s and 1970s. For kids riding in the back seat, spotting a Red Barn often meant excitement and relief because it signaled a stop for burgers, fried chicken, and crinkle-cut fries. The buildings themselves became part of the memory, feeling playful and welcoming in a way that made fast food feel fun rather than rushed. Inside, families gathered around simple tables, enjoying meals that felt hearty and satisfying. Red Barn built a strong identity by looking different from everyone else, and for a time, that worked. But as the fast food industry shifted towards standardized designs and lower operating costs, Red Barn's unique buildings became a liability instead of a strength. Locations were closed, remodeled, or converted into other restaurants, and the barns slowly disappeared from the landscape. Today, seeing an old photo of a Red Barn can instantly bring back road trips and childhood cravings. And as those barns vanished, another fast food name quietly followed a similar path toward fading into memory. Henry's Hamburgers was once a familiar sight for families looking for a simple, affordable meal that everyone could agree on. During the 1960s and 1970s, Henry's built its reputation on consistency and comfort rather than flash. The restaurants had a no-nonsense feel, where burgers were cooked quickly, fries were hot, and milkshakes were thick enough to feel like a treat. For kids, Henry's often meant a break from routine, a place where parents loosened the rules just enough to allow a burger and fries instead of a home-cooked dinner. Many remember sitting at basic tables, unwrapping paper trays, and feeling like this was something special even though it was simple. Henry's thrived in an era when fast food was still closely tied to everyday family life. But as larger chains expanded nationwide with aggressive branding and new menu ideas, Henry's struggled to compete. Locations quietly closed, signs were removed, and the name slowly slipped out of public view. For those who remember it, Henry's represents a time when fast food felt straightforward and dependable. And while Henry's faded quietly, another chain took a louder, more ambitious approach before meeting a similar fate. Carroll's was bold, busy, and everywhere for a time. During the 1970s, Carroll's expanded rapidly across the eastern United States, often placing large restaurants near highways and shopping areas. These locations were designed to handle crowds, making them popular stops for families, school groups, and travelers. Walking into a Carroll's felt energetic, with the sounds of orders being called, trays sliding across counters, and families settling in after long drives. The menu focused on familiar fast food favorites, but the experience felt bigger, almost like a destination rather than a quick stop. For many kids, Carroll's was associated with road trips, weekend outings, and the excitement of eating somewhere that felt important. However, rapid growth came with challenges. As competition increased and operating costs rose, Carroll's struggled to maintain its momentum. Many locations were eventually converted into other chains, leaving little trace of what once stood there. Today, Carroll's lives on, mostly in memories of packed dining rooms and family stops along the road. And as Carroll's disappeared, yet another fast food favorite followed the same uncertain road into history. Sambo's was once a familiar sight across many parts of the United States, especially during the 1960s and 1970s, when families often chose it as a dependable place to sit down and eat together. Unlike many fast food restaurants that focused only on speed, Sambo's blended quick service with a more relaxed dining atmosphere. Parents remember booths filled with conversation, while kids remember oversized menus, breakfast plates, and the feeling of being in a grown-up restaurant that still welcomed families. For many, it was a place tied to road trips, Sunday outings, or stopping after a long day of errands. Over time, however, the chain struggled with changing social awareness, rising costs, and shifting public expectations. Locations slowly closed, signs came down, and what once felt common became something people only remembered years later. Today, Sambo's exists mostly as a snapshot of a very specific era in American dining, reminding people how much the culture around restaurants has changed. And as Sambo's faded from view, another fast food name gained attention for doing something completely different with its menu. Lum's stood out in a crowded fast food landscape by offering something unexpected. Known for its hot dogs steamed in beer and a menu that felt slightly more adventurous, Lum's became popular during the 1960s and 1970s, with families and young adults alike. Walking into a Lum's felt different from other fast food spots, almost like a casual sit-down restaurant where you could take your time. Parents remember ordering familiar comfort food, while kids remember the novelty of curly fries and the relaxed pace of the meal. Lum's locations often became neighborhood favorites, places where people gathered rather than rushed through. But as tastes changed and competition increased, Lum's struggled to keep its identity clear. The things that once made it unique became harder to market in a fast-moving fast food world. Gradually, locations disappeared, leaving behind memories of a chain that dared to be slightly different. And while Lum's offered a laid-back experience, another chain appealed directly to kids with bold branding and fast flavors. Pup and Taco felt like it was designed with children in mind. Popular in the western United States during the 1970s and early 1980s, this chain offered hot dogs, tacos, and fries under one roof, making it an instant favorite for families with picky eaters. For kids, the name alone felt fun and inviting, and the bright, simple restaurants made stopping there feel like a treat. Parents appreciated the low prices and quick service, while kids loved having choices that felt exciting and different from the usual burger stop. Pup and Taco became closely tied to after-school stops, weekend outings, and casual family meals. But as larger chains expanded and real estate values increased, Pup and Taco locations were gradually replaced. Many were converted into other restaurants, erasing visible traces of what once stood there. For those who remember it, Pup and Taco represents a time when fast food felt playful and uncomplicated. And as it vanished, another mall-based favorite continued to blend snacks with social life. Orange Julius was not just a drink stand. For many Americans growing up in the 1960s through the 1980s, it was an essential part of the shopping mall experience. The sound of blenders, the smell of sweet citrus, and the sight of frothy orange drinks made Orange Julius impossible to ignore. Kids begged for a cup while parents shopped, and teenagers treated it as a casual hangout spot between stores. The drinks felt special, almost magical, compared to ordinary soda. Orange Julius thrived in an era when malls were community gathering places, not just shopping centers. But as mall culture declined and food courts changed, the brand lost its central role. Many locations closed quietly, and the once familiar stands disappeared from everyday life. Today, Orange Julius lives on, mostly in memory, closely tied to the feeling of wandering a mall with nothing but time. And while Orange Julius was about drinks, another chain made its mark by mixing bold flavors and fast service. Noggles built a loyal following by doing fast food its own way. Popular in California during the 1970s and 1980s, Noggles combined Mexican-inspired food with American fast food speed. Burritos, tacos, and fries were served quickly, but the flavors felt bigger and more satisfying than many competitors. For families, Noggles became a go-to stop after school events or long days out, while kids remember oversized portions and the freedom to customize their meals. The restaurants had a casual, welcoming feel that encouraged repeat visits. Despite its popularity, Noggles struggled to compete as larger chains expanded aggressively and operating costs increased. Locations closed, signs disappeared, and the name faded from view. For those who grew up with it, Noggles represents a time when regional chains felt deeply personal. And as Noggles disappeared, yet another fast food favorite quietly joined the growing list of forgotten names. Zantigo was a fast food chain that introduced many American families to Mexican-inspired flavors long before they became mainstream. Popular throughout the Midwest during the 1970s and 1980s, Zantigo offered tacos, chilitos, and burritos that felt exciting and different from the usual burger and fries routine. For kids, the food felt bold and grown up, with flavors that stood out and portions that felt generous. Parents appreciated that it was affordable while still feeling like something new. Zantigo locations often became regular stops after school activities or weekend errands, blending speed with a sense of discovery. As national competition increased and tastes shifted, Zantigo struggled to hold onto its place. Many locations closed or were converted into other restaurants, leaving behind memories of a chain that once felt ahead of its time. For those who remember it, Zantigo represents the early days of fast food variety. And as Zantigo faded, another chain with a royal-sounding name was quietly changing its identity. Burger Queen was once a familiar alternative to the larger burger chains that would later dominate the fast food world. During the 1960s and 1970s, Burger Queen offered classic burgers, fries, and shakes in a straightforward setting that felt welcoming and dependable. For many families, it was a regular stop during road trips or shopping days, a place where the food was familiar and the atmosphere relaxed. Kids remember paper-wrapped burgers and the feeling of getting something special without much fuss. As the brand expanded into new regions, it eventually changed its name in many areas to better compete nationally. In doing so, Burger Queen slowly disappeared as its original identity faded away. What remained were memories of a time when fast food chains still felt regional and personal. And as Burger Queen gave way to change, another lesser-known burger chain served customers with quiet confidence. Jefferson's was never the flashiest name in fast food, but for those who grew up near one, it was dependable and familiar. Found in various regions during the 1960s and 1970s, Jefferson's focused on burgers and simple meals served quickly and consistently. Families often stopped there without much planning, trusting that the food would be good enough and the prices reasonable. For kids, Jefferson's was tied to everyday moments rather than big events, making it feel like part of normal life. As competition intensified and national chains expanded rapidly, Jefferson's struggled to stand out. Locations slowly disappeared, leaving little physical evidence behind. Today, Jefferson's survives mostly in faded memories and old photographs. And while Jefferson's quietly faded, a major chain experimented with a bold idea that did not last. The Jack-in-the-Box Mexican food units were an ambitious attempt to expand fast food choices during the 1970s and 1980s. These locations focused entirely on Mexican-inspired items, offering tacos and burritos under the familiar Jack-in-the-Box name. For many customers, it was their first experience with drive-through Mexican-style fast food. Kids remember the novelty of ordering tacos instead of burgers, while parents appreciated the convenience. Despite early interest, the concept struggled to compete as standalone units. Managing a separate identity proved challenging, and many locations were eventually closed or absorbed back into the main brand. The experiment faded quietly, becoming a footnote in fast food history. And as that experiment ended, another chain rooted in tradition continued serving loyal customers in the South. Royal Castle was a pioneer in the fast food world, especially in Florida and surrounding areas. Known for its small, square burgers, Royal Castle built a loyal following during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Families often stopped there late at night or after long days, drawn by the simple menu and familiar flavors. Kids remember the tiny burgers and the feeling of ordering several at once, making the meal feel fun and indulgent. Royal Castle locations became local landmarks, deeply tied to their communities. But as national chains expanded and competition increased, Royal Castle struggled to maintain its presence. Many locations closed, and the name slowly faded from everyday conversation. For those who remember it, Royal Castle represents an earlier chapter of fast food history, and as it disappeared, yet another chain followed the same slow path into nostalgia. Ritzy's felt like a place where fast food slowed down just enough to feel special. Popular during the 1970s and early 1980s, especially in the Midwest, it combined classic burgers with rich frozen custard that many kids still remember as a highlight. Walking into a Ritzy's felt warmer and more personal than most fast food spots, with a menu that encouraged you to sit, eat, and enjoy rather than rush out the door. Families often treated it as a reward stop after errands or school events, and kids remember the excitement of choosing dessert before finishing their meal. The custard alone made it feel different, thicker and more indulgent than ordinary ice cream. But as large national chains expanded and operating costs rose, Ritzy's struggled to keep up. Locations slowly disappeared, and what once felt like a neighborhood favorite became harder to find. For those who grew up with it, Ritzy's represents a time when fast food still felt handcrafted and personal. And while Ritzy's focused on comfort and tradition, another chain captured children's attention through colorful characters and playful marketing. Burger Chef and Jeff was a chain that truly understood how to appeal to kids. During the 1960s and 1970s, it stood out not just for its burgers, but for its mascots, toys, and family-friendly atmosphere. Many children remember the excitement of kids' meals that came with small prizes, long before such promotions became standard everywhere. For parents, Burger Chef and Jeff was affordable and convenient, making it an easy choice for busy days. The restaurants felt lively, filled with families, birthday outings, and after-game celebrations. Burger Chef was also known for experimenting with menu ideas, offering options that felt slightly ahead of their time. Despite its popularity, the chain struggled to compete as larger brands with deeper pockets expanded aggressively. Locations were eventually sold or converted, and the characters quietly disappeared from view. Today, Burger Chef and Jeff lives on mostly in childhood memories of toys, trays, and family meals, and as those mascots faded, another chain built its reputation on one simple promise done well. Chicken Delight built its name on doing one thing and doing it consistently. Famous for its fried chicken, especially during the 1960s and 1970s, the chain became a go-to choice for families who wanted an easy meal to take home. The slogan, emphasizing that customers did not have to cook, resonated strongly with busy households. Kids remember boxes of chicken brought home for dinner, often shared around the table rather than eaten in the restaurant. The food felt comforting, filling the house with familiar smells. Chicken Delight thrived before drive-through culture fully took over, relying heavily on takeout and delivery. But as competition increased and tastes changed, the chain struggled to modernize. Locations closed gradually, and the name slowly disappeared from neighborhoods. For many families, Chicken Delight represents an earlier era of fast food convenience. And while it focused on take-home meals, another chain invited families to sit down and stay a while. York Steakhouse felt like a bridge between fast food and casual dining. Common in shopping malls during the 1970s and 1980s, it offered affordable steak dinners in a cafeteria-style setting. Families lined up with trays, choosing meals that felt grown-up compared to burgers and fries. For kids, York Steakhouse often marked the first time ordering steak, making the experience feel important and memorable. Parents appreciated the value and predictability, especially during shopping trips. The dining rooms were calm, comfortable, and unhurried, encouraging families to sit and talk. As mall culture declined and dining trends shifted, York Steakhouse struggled to survive. Locations closed quietly, leaving behind empty mall spaces and fading memories. Today, York Steakhouse represents a time when eating out felt like an event, even at modest prices. And as mall-based dining faded, another regional chain rose and fell alongside changing habits. Druthers was a regional favorite that felt deeply connected to the communities it served. Popular during the 1970s and 1980s, especially in parts of the Midwest and South, Druthers offered burgers, fried chicken, and a casual atmosphere that welcomed families. Many locations featured buffet-style service, which kids loved because it meant choice and abundance. Birthday outings, after-school stops, and weekend meals often included a visit to Druthers. Parents appreciated the relaxed environment and reasonable prices, while kids focused on piling food onto trays. Despite strong local loyalty, Druthers struggled as national chains expanded and smaller operators faced rising costs. Locations closed or changed hands, and the name slowly faded from everyday life. For those who remember it, Druthers represents comfort, familiarity, and community. And as Druthers disappeared, the list of once-loved fast food chains continued to grow longer. The Ground Round was a place where families went when they wanted fast service without feeling rushed. Popular during the 1970s and 1980s, it offered burgers, fries, and comfort food in a casual dining setting that encouraged people to sit, talk, and stay a while. Parents remember relaxed meals where kids could color on paper placemats, while children remember the freedom of cracking peanuts at the table and tossing the shells on the floor. It felt informal and welcoming, a spot where birthdays, team dinners, and family nights often happened without much planning. The Ground Round balanced affordability with a sit-down experience that felt special compared to traditional fast food. As dining trends shifted and competition increased, many locations closed or were rebranded. What remained were memories of laughter-filled dining rooms and easy evenings out. And as those family-friendly tables disappeared, another chain offered a darker, more grown-up take on casual dining. Steak and Ale felt sophisticated compared to most family restaurants of its time. During the 1970s and 1980s, it introduced many Americans to the idea of casual dining that still felt elegant. Dim lighting, wood accents, and quiet dining rooms made it feel like a place for special occasions rather than everyday meals. Parents remember date nights and anniversaries, while kids remember feeling unusually grown up ordering steak and baked potatoes. The salad bar was often a highlight, offering choice and abundance that felt exciting. Steak and ale thrived when people wanted a restaurant experience without fine dining prices. But as tastes changed and competition from newer casual chains grew, it struggled to stay relevant. Locations closed one by one, leaving behind memories of hushed conversations and candlelit tables. And while steak and ale leaned into elegance, another chain embraced the warmth of old-fashioned home cooking. Po Folks built its reputation on comfort and nostalgia. Popular in the 1970s and 1980s, it offered Southern-style meals served in a setting designed to feel like a visit to a relative's house. Mason jars, wooden decor, and hearty portions made families feel at ease the moment they walked in. Parents appreciated the familiar recipes, while kids loved the generous servings and relaxed rules at the table. Eating at Po Folks felt like slowing down, a reminder of simpler meals and shared conversation. The chain thrived when people craved warmth and familiarity over speed. But as restaurant trends shifted toward faster service and modern designs, Po Folks struggled to maintain its appeal. Locations quietly disappeared, leaving behind memories of comfort food and cozy dining rooms. And as those home-style meals faded, another chain promised something different with a single focused menu. Rack's Roast Beef tried to carve out its own place in a crowded fast food world by focusing on roast beef sandwiches and a broader menu than most competitors. Popular during the 1970s and 1980s, Rack's offered a mix of sandwiches, fries, and even salad bars, giving families more options in one stop. For kids, it felt exciting to choose from items that were not just burgers, while parents appreciated the variety. Many remember stopping at Rack's during road trips or busy evenings when everyone wanted something different. Despite loyal customers, Rack's struggled as larger chains dominated advertising and locations. Restaurants closed or were converted, and the brand slowly faded from view. For those who remember it, Rack's represents a time when fast food chains were still experimenting, and as Rack's disappeared, another lesser-known burger chain quietly followed the same path. All-American Burger lived up to its name by focusing on straightforward burgers and fries without much distraction. During the 1960s and 1970s, it served families looking for dependable meals in a simple setting. There were no gimmicks, just familiar food served quickly and affordably. For kids, it was tied to everyday moments like after-school stops or quick family dinners, making it feel reliable and comforting. Parents trusted it as a place where everyone would find something they liked. As competition increased and national brands expanded aggressively, All-American Burger struggled to stand out. Locations closed quietly, often replaced by newer chains that erased all visible traces. Today, All-American Burger survives mostly in memories, representing a time when fast food felt modest and predictable. And as it faded away, yet another once familiar name joined the long list of chains that disappeared after the 1980s. Doggy Diner was one of those fast food chains that children remembered just as clearly for the building as for the food. Popular on the West Coast during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, its locations were often topped with oversized dachshund statues wearing chef hats, making them impossible to ignore. For kids riding in the car, spotting a Doggy Diner felt like a small victory, a signal that hot dogs, fries, and shakes might be coming soon. The food was simple and affordable, but the playful branding made the experience feel fun and memorable. Families stopped there without much planning, trusting it as a familiar option after errands or long days out. As newer chains expanded and tastes shifted, Doggy Diner struggled to keep up. Locations closed, statues were removed, and the chain slowly disappeared from everyday life. Today, it survives mostly in photographs and memories of quirky roadside stops. And as those dachshund statues vanished, another restaurant chain offered a very different kind of dining experience aimed at adults. Scotch and sirloin catered to diners looking for something more refined than typical fast food. Popular during the 1960s and 1970s, it specialized in steak dinners served in a quiet, comfortable setting that felt upscale without being intimidating. Parents often chose Scotch and sirloin for celebrations, business dinners, or nights that felt important. Kids remember dim lighting, heavy menus, and the feeling of being in a place where good behavior mattered. The meals felt deliberate and unhurried, a contrast to the fast-paced dining options growing around it. Scotch and sirloin thrived during a time when steakhouse dining symbolized success and stability. But as dining trends changed and competition increased, the chain struggled to stay relevant. Locations closed quietly, leaving behind memories of formal meals and special occasions. And while Scotch and sirloin focused on adult elegance, another chain had already made its mark by offering fast food around the clock. White Tower was a familiar sight in many cities, especially in the Northeast, where its small white buildings served burgers and coffee at all hours. Popular during the mid-20th century, White Tower became known as a place where anyone could stop at any time of day or night. Families